Can't wait. Oh my God, can't wait. Welcome back, folks, to the Manic Monday edition of Snowman in the Morning. A little technical note for you. You may see everything pop up in segments on the YouTube page and the Facebook page. That is because I don't have all of the proper equipment yet to air a full show video-wise, and I have to be careful. We are carried today by Cricket Wireless, part of the great 5G coverage provided by AT&T. So I want to give them a shout and going to make them a sponsor also. You know, people saying you're not going to be able to get all these big sponsors. Watch this. All right. I need a few minutes, my friend, before you weigh in.
All I gotta say is sick 'em.
Now, y'all know there are two teams in my household. One's the 49ers, the other's the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm not hating to do this because I know what I watched yesterday. I know what Matt Taylor called yesterday. The Colts stunk in Jacksonville again. How the hell can you have the NFL's leading rusher? And we said this about the Rams. You can apply the Colts to this. How can you have the NFL's leading rusher and not use him? That's part one. Part two is, and I've seen many a game like this. I know Cole has seen many a game like this. Jason Elliott, Steve Willis, whoever is tuning in have seen games like this. A lower tier team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2-14 coming in. The Colts had their playoff destiny in their own hands. And they allowed the Jaguars to march right down the field in 12 plays and score a touchdown. Not hold them to a field goal, and effectively ended the game on that first drive. The Jaguars played with fire. They played with nerve. They played with the knowledge of their sleeping in the Colts' heads, rent-free, mind you. And the Colts looked like the Jaguars, an absolute stinker. The last two games, they had two shots to clinch a playoff berth. And I was ready to celebrate both times. They let the Raiders get away, 23-20, and they laid an absolute egg in Jacksonville. Now, where does the blame start? There's so many places where you can lay the blame, okay? But first and foremost, I lay the blame on Frank Reich. And I lay the blame on Frank Reich for one reason and one reason only. Or I should say the biggest reason thereof. He didn't trust Jonathan Taylor. We said on Friday, Cole, Mike, and myself said on Friday, you had to feed the beast. You had to feed Jonathan Taylor. He was the key to get you to the postseason. And Jonathan Taylor, except for two big runs, was effectively taken out of the offense by the Jaguars' defense, number one. Number two, the mentality of the Colts and the Jaguars, because it's a yin-yang coin, and by the fear of Frank Reich. How can you trust Jonathan Taylor to get him 100 yards against the Raiders, but your defense, that's where I'm going next, your defense couldn't hold the Raiders and Derek Carr, and congrats to them for getting in the playoffs, which is where the legendary Brent Musburger said, jackpot, baby. Definitely. And You don't trust Jonathan Taylor in Jacksonville to break a jinx? Come on. This was the way the Rams game started, and the 49ers were not getting any plays in Rams territory. They looked like mirror images in the first half. I mean, you hold the Jaguars to 4 field goals on 4 red zone trips. But the 2 red zone trips, you don't hold them, they score touchdowns. So in essence, 6 scoring drives against a top 5 defense. The blame starts with Frank Reich. The blame also comes to Carson Wentz. Carson, you had every opportunity to take your team to the postseason. This reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch. Why didn't you give the ball to Jonathan Taylor? I mean, 3 yards here, 3 yards there. You should have known against a hyped-up Jaguar defense. Yeah, they were going to stop him a few times. But because the Colts were so afraid and got behind so quickly, they abandoned the running game. And that's not the first game this year I've seen them do that where they had a chance to win. Had a chance to do it against the Los Angeles Rams. Had a chance to do it twice against the Tennessee Titans. So that's 3 games right there that kept you out of the playoffs. 3 sure wins. 3. Now, granted, the Titans game in Nashville was early in the season. But, be that as it may, you should have knocked them out. You should have conked out you should have knocked out the Jaguars and the Raiders. But instead, we're talking about, and congrats to Big Ben for this, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
And the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm about to say Los Angeles Raiders. I'm sorry.
That's what it should be.
Claiming the final 2 playoff spots when I had predicted the Colts and the Chargers. Now, kudos to the Chargers for coming all the way back, grabbing and getting to overtime, but they lost at the buzzer. The Colts just stunk up the joint. There was no life. There was no passion. There was no nerve. There was no, here are 3 words you know very well, partner, sense of urgency. There was no sense of urgency whatsoever. Even on the drive where they scored a field goal in the first half and got to within 10-3, you pretty much knew the game was over because the Colts couldn't punch it in the end zone. I mean, granted, they got a late touchdown, but what's that? That's window dressing. I'll say those 3 words again. There was no sense of urgency whatsoever. None. And if you're the Colts, you got to take a look at Carson Wentz. I'm sorry. You got to take a look at Carson Wentz. People want to blame Jimmy Garoppolo for their losses and say, well, we got to get him out of there. We got to use the future with Trey Lance. And I have a double take on that later on in the show after we do our championship preview. Listen, I love you, Carson Wentz, but I can only say you have to do better. I have never – yes, I have. Let me take that back. Carson Wentz is one of a few quarterbacks I have seen over 4 decades in a clinching scenario be so damn – here's a word for you – tentative. After the Jaguars marched right down the field and punched it in the end zone. And I'm literally using the word punch because this was supposed to be a heavyweight fight and it turned into a Mike Tyson 1-round special. One good and you know, on that first drive, 3 third down opportunities, 3 third down conversions. 3rd and 12, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 1. You know what the Jaguars did all 3 times on that on that first drive? They converted. They converted with double-digit conversions. And I'm talking about they had conversions of 20 yards. They had I know they had 3 double-digit conversions on that drive. 3. Indianapolis, you have a lot to think about, and you have a lot to do. Because as far as I'm concerned, you had 2 shots, 2, to clinch a playoff berth, and you failed miserably both times. Once in your home stadium and once in Jacksonville. Like the 49ers own the Rams, the Jaguars own you. And until you can break that jinx, and it's going to take a lot of nerve, and it'll take you into next season to march down to Jacksonville, and to my hope, they schedule the Jaguars on the road first. Go down to Jacksonville, take care of business. Until you beat them in Jacksonville, you will not compete for an AFC South title again. Until you beat the Titans in Tennessee, you will not compete for an AFC South title again. Ever. You got to win on the road in your division. You have to win on the road in your division. And you know something, Indianapolis? You didn't get it done. Plain and simple. That's Snowman's take.